Hey there, everyone. It's GG's Sober Son. August 6th. August 6th. I gotta find my page here. Alright, August 6th. From the 24-hour day book reading, AA thought for the day. Psychologists are turning to religion because just knowing about ourselves is not enough. We need the added dynamic of faith in a power outside of ourselves on which we can rely. Books on psychology and psychiatric treatments are not enough without the strength that comes from faith in God. And clergy and rabbis are turning to psychology because faith is an act of the mind and will. Religion must be presented in psychological terms to some extent in order to satisfy the modern person. Faith must be built largely on our own psychological experience. Have I taken what I need from both psychology and religion when I live the AA way? I don't know. That seems to overcomplicate it a bit for me. Yeah, for me it's more spiritual than psychological, right? Because until my mind, what did they say? When the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And it's like when I became willing to let in new information, and it's often referred to in AA, the gift of desperation, right? That's me through the gift of desperation becoming willing to accept a GOD. Gift of desperation gave me God. And it's crazy how I cling on to certainty in my life. When things seem really out of control, and there are certain things that I really lock down on and can become OCD about, but it's really about trusting. And there was a period of time when I lived in England where I would wake up in the morning. I wasn't going to AA regularly, right? I was going to maybe one meeting a week. And my AA meetings were really just more of an escape than anything. And I would wake up in the morning and just this dread would come over me, like, not another day of this, fill in the blank, right? And I just felt ill-equipped and ill-equipped to deal with life on life's terms. It just seemed like drudgery. And I think at the time I had a boss who really second-guessed me at every turn, and I had pretty much an autonomous job, but every time he called, he wasn't able to get a hold of me. Therefore, I was always goofing off or doing something else, right? Didn't matter if I had a customer or whatever. Now, I'm not trying to wallow in self-pity. That's just how it was at the time, right? And I remember waking up in the morning just saying, God, I can't do this. You've got to do it. And it's kind of like the next thing I knew, it was the end of the day, and I'd gotten another day under my belt, kind of thing. And I think I was given the tools with which to deal with things moment by moment, and opportunity by opportunity. You know, that was one case. I've shared about my boss, my first boss when we got overseas this last time, who really like saw that I had some skeletons in my closet in my records, right? That I had some some low airman performance reports, enlisted performance reports kind of thing, and he was not going to allow that, a new slug to come in here and drag the whole base down, because I was the only person who did my job at that base. And so he was going to make sure that doesn't happen. So anyway, I found out, out of desperation, I ended up praying for the guy, page 552 in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and wishing him all the best things. I made it an exercise to pray for him, and then I learned all these things about him, and it created connection rather than separation. And that's what's becoming more and more a theme in my life over the past few months, is connection rather than separation. We're all connected. And again, I got all of that, and yes, the psychology may back it up, kind of thing, right? And psychology is confirming all of the, a lot of what faith has been practicing for centuries or throughout time, all of recorded history, right? And now psychology is going, oh yeah, that's that. Right? And science is proving, with quantum science, that that's basically spirituality and so on and so forth. But all I wanted to do was stop drinking, and I wouldn't have wanted to do that, and I probably said this a million times, but I wouldn't have wanted to do that had my circumstances not gotten to the point where I was in a hopeless state of mind and body, and hopeless social state, and hopeless marital state. And so I came in to stop drinking, and I thought this will be a good way, right? And then I thought after a year or two in AA, kind of a half-hearted member of AA, because I didn't go to meetings every day like a lot of newcomers do, which I'm kind of jealous of that they're able to, right? I was not able to do that. And then I thought I had graduated spiritually from AA, and that it was more my job to continue, now that I had alcohol out of my system, that it was my job to, focus my new alcohol-free, amazing, magnifying mind on all my problems. And that was sadly not the case, right? That I can continue, like I felt like I hit a glass ceiling in AA with the spiritual program, which now that so it's been since June of 1992 since I've had a drink, right? And a day at a time. And I have sold myself so short at times with the spiritual simplicity of the AA, the 12-step recovery program, that it has depth and weight and can keep any person striving for a lifetime. It says that somewhere in our literature. I think it's in one of the stories in the back of the book, but it is so true. It has depth and weight. And I've been involved to a later or lesser, greater or lesser degree in religious activities and church involvement, but invariably I find myself back in 12-step recovery more it's more important to me, and I believe that's where God is leading me more and more into 12-step recovery. Whether it's psychology, whether it's religion, it doesn't matter. Like, nowhere in this world are you going to consistently get people who are down and out, from various walks of life, whether you're from Yale or coming from jail, we're all sitting around the table talking about the same ideas, emotions, and attitudes, and that's what got us into AA. And the worst thing we can do as a human being is think that we graduate from that experience, because that's where it's at. That's what keeps us all grounded and humble and plugged into society, plugged into others, connected. It's all about connection. And I love that. The more I realize that, more and more. Meditation for the day. Refilling with the Spirit is something you need every day. For this refilling with the Spirit, you need these times of quiet communion, away, alone, without noise, without activity. You need this dwelling apart, this shutting yourself away in the very secret place of your being, away, alone, with your Maker. From these times of communion, you come forth with new power. This refilling is the best preparation for effective work. When you are spiritually filled, there is no work too hard for you. Yes, and my higher power, even though he was God in human form, he still took time away. He still took time to meditate and pray alone, away, right? And I feel like there were times in my life when I had children at home, that, I had a family that I spent too much time in prayer and meditation, that, while they were up, I should have been connected with them and engaged with them. And, some of my prayer and meditation time was isolation. It wasn't like I was necessarily, like scrolling on my phone, because smartphones weren't a thing when my kids were little, but I definitely did that later when they were older, right? But isolating. But there were times when I would be in prayer kind of thing, hoping for God to miracle me into action and give me guidance and direction, when he may have been saying, go play with your kids, what are you doing? In hindsight, that's probably what he was saying. But I was and I love that simple spiritual process as well. On page 420 in the 4th edition, it says, I never just sit and wait for God to miracle me to answer my prayers, basically. I never just sit and wait for God to answer my prayers. I ask, and then I do whatever is in front of me. However it turns out, that's God's will for me. So ask and do, right? And that is the true form of the word obey. Hear and receive and do. right? Hear and do. Ask, receive, and do whatever's in front of you. It doesn't have to be complicated. That is, right, is to hear and do and take action. And, recovery is a lot about action, doing the next right thing. Again, a simple spiritual tool. Ask, receive, do the next right thing. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may be daily refilled with the right spirit. I pray that I may be full of the joy of true living. Oh, that's so good. That what we have is a daily reprieve based upon our maintenance of our spiritual condition. Right? Again, doing these spiritual exercises, not that that's what's going to poof us, right? It's not transactional. It's just doing the next right thing, doing these things that cultivate a better life, right? And doing these videos is part of that for me, is part of cultivating a life of reflection and introspection, and bringing people along for the ride if they choose. This is a small channel, obviously, not many views, but it's a good exercise for me, and I'm putting it out there in the world. And if anybody happens upon it, then great. If not, I'm still getting some good stuff out of this, right? An opportunity to reflect on these things, on this book that really was key to my recovery in the first year of recovery from alcoholism. So that's why I keep coming back. So many nuggets, so many gems of spiritual gems, life gems, practical gems, psychological, whatever you want to call them, to help everybody live a better life. And I just am glad that you all are along on the journey with me. I love you. Keep coming back. Chin up. Aim up. Rise up.